Hello, and thank you for joining us today on We Are La Plata County TV. We're here today with Neil Starkybaum, who is the county's Director of Community Development Services. And Neil, can you tell us an update on how the Land Use Code Revision Project is coming along?
Megan, the land use revision is coming along. Staff met with the Board of County Commissioners back in September to receive policy direction on several items. That included a review of the work to date, what the board goals and priorities were, and we moved forward from there.
Great. So what kind of direction did the staff receive from the board at that meeting?
Well, the board gave staff direction in four specific areas. Number one, they directed staff that they did not wish to pursue traditional Euclidean zoning countywide. Secondly, as there would be no Euclidean zoning established, there would be no land use classifications identified in the code.
So that's a shift, right? That's a shift from the initial direction that was given. Is that correct?
It is a substantial shift. I believe that the board took into consideration several months of public comment related to that, and that was part of what their decision was based upon.
So if no Euclidean zoning countywide, then what?
Well, the direction from the board was to continue with the existing performance-based zoning that is currently established in La Plata County.
Okay. And can you talk a little bit more about what that means? What is performance-based zoning?
Well, performance-based zoning is different from Euclidean zoning as it utilizes mitigation through specific development standards as well as the use of a component for compatibility review to ensure that proposed developments are compatible or mitigate impacts to existing development.
So your neighbors aren't going to be, too badly affected by new development. Is that kind of the intent?
That would be the goal. Okay. That is different from Euclidean zoning, which establishes zone districts and identifies specific uses by right or uses by special review that would be considered under a higher level of review.
Okay, great. Thanks for that clarification. So what other policy direction did the board provide during that work session?
The other direction was that we would not undertake a review since there would be no Euclidean zoning throughout the county, that we would not look at land use classifications as a part of the land use code revision.
So anything else during that work session?
Yeah, one very important concept that was discussed with the board and given direction to staff was for what's called an economic development area. This would be in areas that have existing infrastructure or potential infrastructure, areas that would have existing uses that could be compatible with new economic development. And it would incorporate a streamlined development process for proposed projects in those areas.
Okay, so would the revised code name these areas? Have these areas been identified by staff or?
It would not include specific identified areas. The revision to the code would identify a concept and a process for identifying those types of areas. There was a lot of work done in the district plan updates to identify those economic development areas, or as they were referred to, growth hubs.
Okay. Is there an example of where those are in play in the county at this point?
Yes, there's a very good example, and that's Gem Village, which that process was established back in 1995 and incorporates a very streamlined development review process for projects in the Gem Village area.
Great, so that can kind of serve as a model going forward.
I believe so, yes.
Great. So what's happening now? When can the public expect to be involved again in the code revision and have something to feedback on?
Staff has been working with the direction that was given to them from the board, and we're working on some preliminary drafts of the land use code revision.
Thank you, Neil. We really appreciate the update on this project that folks have been working so hard on in the county. For the community to stay involved, there are a number of ways to do so. Planning Department webpage has a ton of resources related to the code update. There's also a monthly planning newsletter. You can subscribe to that. And then the Planning Commission holds meetings many Thursdays of the month at 6 p.m. at the County Administration Building. Thank you for joining us.